Blood dripped from Eleanor Carter's 72-year-old knuckles onto her floral carpet. A 250-pound man lay crumpled at her feet, arm bent backward, face destroyed. Her 7-year-old granddaughter had burst into the Thunder Guardian's garage minutes ago, barefoot, dress torn, screaming, "He hurt my grandmother!" The bikers found the front door smashed outward from the inside, not kicked in. And there sat Eleanor in her rocking chair, humming a lullaby, reading glasses dangling from her neck. She looked up at the stunned bikers and smiled. "Hello, boys. I've been waiting 45 years for you to find me. If you want to see how this satisfies like revenge story unfolds, subscribe to this channel and stay until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel." The wrench slipped from Garrett Mason's hand and hit the concrete floor with a sharp clang. Not because of the noise, the Thunder Guardian's garage was always loud. Classic rock bleeding from old speakers. Someone arguing about carburetor timing in the corner. The constant rumble of engines being tested on stands. No, it was the girl that made him drop it. She stood in the open bay door, maybe 7 years old. Barefoot. Yellow sundress torn at the shoulder and stained with something dark. Her face was streaked with tears and dirt, chest heaving like she'd sprinted a mile without stopping. "Please." Her voice cracked high and desperate. "He's hurting my grandma." The garage went dead silent. Even the radio seemed to know better than to keep playing. Garrett straightened up slowly. At 52, he'd been president of the Thunder Guardians for 11 years. He'd seen a lot walk through that door. Desperate people, scared people, people running from things they couldn't name. But something about this little girl made his blood run cold. "What did you say, sweetheart?" "My grandma." She was gasping, trying to form words between sobs. "There's a man, a big man. He broke in and he grabbed her and she told me to run. And I didn't know where to go, but Grandma always said if I was ever scared, I should find the bikers with the angel wings because they help people and..." Okay. Garrett was already moving, wiping his hands on a rag. He whistled sharp and loud. "Church. Now." That was all it took. Diesel, the club's sergeant-at-arms, killed the engine he'd been revving. Marcus shut down the pneumatic lift. Tommy dropped the chrome he'd been polishing. Jake abandoned the Harley he'd been detailing for 3 days. Within 30 seconds, 8 men stood in a semicircle around the crying child. "What's your name, honey?" Garrett kept his voice gentle, but his jaw was set like granite. "Lily." She hiccuped. "Lily Carter." "Lily, where's your grandma's house?" "Willow Lane. The blue house with the white fence and the roses." "Please, you have to hurry. He was so big and Grandma's old and I heard things breaking and..." "Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake with me." Garrett pointed at the others. "Rest of you gear up and follow. 2 minutes." They moved like water, finding cracks in a dam. Fast, purposeful, unstoppable. Leather vests with hand-stitched angel wing patches caught the afternoon light as they strode toward their bikes. Lily stumbled after them and Garrett turned back, catching her gently by the shoulders. "You're riding with me. Hold on tight. Don't let go no matter what. Understand?" She nodded, fear and hope warring in her eyes. Garrett swung onto his Harley and lifted Lily up behind him. Her small arms locked around his waist like a vice grip. "Which way?" "Left, then go straight until you see the big oak tree, then right." The convoy of 5 bikes tore out of the garage pipe, screaming gravel, spraying in rooster tails behind them. People on the sidewalk turned to stare. Some smiled. They knew the Thunder Guardians knew they helped folks in trouble. Others looked worried. That many bikers moving that fast usually meant something bad. They were right. 3 minutes later, Garrett spotted the blue house. The white picket fence Lily mentioned was still standing, roses blooming red and pink along its length. From the outside, everything looked peaceful, except for the front door. Garrett raised his fist, and the bikes behind him cut their engines. In the sudden silence, he studied that door with narrowing eyes. Something was wrong. He'd done some stupid things in his younger days, broken into places he shouldn't have. He knew what a forced entry looked like, door kicked inward, splintered frame around the lock boot prints. Damage concentrated at the weak points. This was different. This door had been smashed outward, from the inside. The wood was cracked in a spider web pattern, the bottom hinge ripped clean from the frame. Someone had pushed it back into place, but it hung crooked, barely staying in its opening. Someone inside that house had hit that door hard enough to nearly tear it off. "Stay behind me," Garrett told Lily as he dismounted, but she was already running up the cracked walkway. "Grandma!" Garrett and Diesel caught up to her in 4 long strides. Garrett grabbed her shoulder, stopping her just before the broken door. "Let me go first, sweetheart." He pushed the door open slowly. The living room looked like a tornado had touched down inside. A coffee table lay on its side legs, snapped clean off. A lamp was shattered against the far wall. The TV had been knocked from its stand. Picture frames littered the floor glass, crunching under Garrett's boots as he stepped inside. And in the middle of it all, sitting calmly in a floral rocking chair that somehow remained upright, was an elderly woman. She couldn't have been more than 5'2". Silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, cardigan sweater buttoned to her throat despite the summer heat, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She looked like every grandmother in every storybook Garrett had ever seen as a kid, except for 2 things. First, her knuckles were scraped raw and bleeding skin, torn across both hands like she'd been punching concrete. Second, there was an unconscious man, crumpled on the floor, 6 feet away from her. Massive guy, easily 250, 260. Blood trickled from his nose and a gash above his eye. His left arm was bent at an angle. Arms shouldn't bend. He wasn't moving except for the shallow rise and fall of his chest. The old woman looked up from her rocking chair and smiled at Lily like nothing unusual had happened. "Hello, sweetheart. I told you to run to the park, not the garage." Lily pulled free from Garrett and threw herself into her grandmother's arms. "He was hurting you. I saw him grab you through the window. And then you saw me handle it." The grandmother's voice was soft but steady as she stroked Lily's hair. "You should have kept running, baby girl. I had it under control." Garrett stared at the scene, his brain struggling to piece it together. Behind him, Diesel let out a low whistle. "Holy hell!" "Ma'am." Garrett stepped forward carefully, hands visible and non-threatening. "Are you Eleanor Carter?" The woman's eyes lifted to meet his. They were blue, pale, and clear as winter ice, and suddenly very sharp. The grandmother's softness vanished in an instant, replaced by something harder. Something that had seen things and done things and survived them all. "I am." She studied his face with unsettling intensity. "And you're Garrett Mason. Stone they call you now. President of the Thunder Guardians." That stopped him cold. "You know me. I know all of you." Her gaze swept past him to the other bikers crowding the doorway. Diesel with his shaved head and full-sleeve tattoos, Marcus with his graying beard, Tommy barely 25 with eager eyes, Jake still holding the tire iron he'd grabbed as a weapon. "I know your club," she continued. "Your history. Your code." She paused and something sad crossed her weathered face. "I should. I helped write it." The words hung in the air like smoke. Garrett felt the world tilt slightly beneath his boots. "What?" Eleanor Carter smiled, but there was weight behind it. Decades of weight. "That man on my floor came with a message from people I used to know. People who want to remind me that leaving doesn't mean forgotten." She looked down at Lily, still clinging to her neck. They picked the wrong day to make their point. Garrett looked at the unconscious man again, at the destroyed living room, at the door that had been smashed from the inside, at this tiny 72-year-old grandmother who sat like a queen in the ruins of a battlefield she had clearly won. "I think," he said slowly, "you'd better start from the beginning." Eleanor's smile faded. "That's a long story, son. 45 years long. We've got time." "No." Her voice sharpened. "You don't. None of us do. That man isn't alone. He's just the messenger. The people who sent him, they'll know he failed within the hour. And when they do, they won't send 1 man next time. They'll send 20. Garrett straightened. "Who are they?" "The Black Serpents." Diesel's hand went to the knife on his belt. Marcus swore under his breath. Even Tommy, young as he was, knew that name. The Black Serpents had been terrorizing small towns across Texas for decades. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking. If it was evil and profitable, they had their hands in it. They were the boogeyman that other criminal organizations warned their children about. "Why are the Serpents coming after a 72-year-old grandmother?" Garrett demanded. Eleanor's eyes went cold. "Because 45 years ago, I was the one who almost destroyed them, me and my husband. We built the Thunder Guardians specifically to fight them. We were winning." She looked at the angel wing patch on Garrett's vest. "And then they killed my husband and burned everything we'd built to the ground." Lily lifted her head from her grandmother's shoulder. "Grandma, you were a biker." Eleanor smoothed her granddaughter's hair back from her face. "A long time ago, baby girl. Before your mama was born. Before this gray hair and these old bones." "That's so cool." Despite everything, Eleanor laughed. "It wasn't cool, sweetheart. It was necessary. There's a difference." Garrett crouched down, bringing himself to Eleanor's eye level. "Mrs. Carter, I need you to tell me everything. Right now. Because if the Black Serpents are coming to Cedar Falls, my club needs to know why and what we're up against." "Your club." Eleanor studied him again with those ice blue eyes. "Do you even know who founded it? Do you know why those angel wings are on your back?" The club was founded in 1978 by a man named Robert Carter and his wife. They started it as a community protection group. Robert was killed in 1982 and his wife disappeared. The club almost died out, but it was rebuilt in the 90s by men who didn't know the whole story. Eleanor cut him off. Men who found the code we wrote and the patches we designed and decided to carry on something they didn't fully understand. She held up her bleeding hand, showing him the torn knuckles. "I'm not Robert's wife, Garrett. I'm his widow. And I didn't disappear, I went into hiding. Because I was pregnant with my daughter when they killed him, and I wasn't going to let them kill her too." Garrett felt like someone had knocked the wind out of him. "You're the original founder." "Co-founder. Robert and I built it together." Her voice softened with old grief. "He was the heart. I was the fist. We made a good team." "Why are they coming for you now? After 45 years. Eleanor's jaw tightened. "Because someone talked. Someone who knew I was still alive. Someone who told the new Serpent leadership where to find me." She looked at the unconscious man on her floor. "His name is Vance Kruger. He's an enforcer, been with the Serpents for about 15 years. But he's not the one in charge. The man running things now is named Marcus Hendricks. They call him Viper." "I've heard that name," Diesel said grimly. "Bad dude. Real bad." "Worse than you know." Eleanor's voice dropped. "Viper was there the night they killed Robert. He was young then, maybe 1920. It was his first kill. He spent 45 years rising through the ranks, and now he runs the whole organization." "What does he want from you?" Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached up and touched the chain around her neck. Garrett had assumed it held her reading glasses, but now he saw there was something else hanging from it. A small key tarnished with age. "Before Robert died, we gathered evidence against the Serpents. Financial records, witness testimonies, photographs, documentation of every murder, every trafficking victim, every dirty cop they had on payroll. Enough to bring down the entire organization. Where's this evidence now? Hidden. Somewhere only I know. Robert and I agreed if anything happened to one of us, the other would protect it until the time was right to use it." She looked at Garrett with those piercing eyes. "Viper has spent 45 years looking for that evidence. Every few years he sends someone to find me. I move, I hide, I start over. When my daughter was alive, I moved us 14 times before she turned 18. After she died and I got custody of Lily, I thought I was finally safe. I thought he'd given up." Her hand tightened on Lily's back. "I was wrong." Tommy spoke up from the doorway. "What did this Viper guy tell his messenger? What's the message?" Eleanor's face hardened. 72 hours. I have 72 hours to bring him the evidence personally. If I don't, he'll burn Cedar Falls to the ground. Every house, every business, every person who ever showed me kindness. That's insane, Marcus said. He can't just destroy a whole town. He's done it before. Eleanor's voice was flat. 30 years ago, a town called Miller's Creek. Population 800. I was hiding there with my daughter. Someone recognized me from an old photograph. Word got back to Viper. She paused. Miller's Creek doesn't exist anymore. The official story is a wildfire. The truth is much worse. The garage fell completely silent. Garrett straightened up. Then we've got 72 hours to figure out how to stop him. There is no stopping him. Eleanor shook her head. There's only surviving him. And the best way to do that is for me to leave, tonight. Take Lily somewhere far away and disappear again. No, Garrett's voice was firm. You're not running, not this time. Young man, I appreciate the bravado, but you don't understand what you're dealing with. The Serpents have 200 members across 3 states. They have cops on payroll, judges in their pockets, and enough firepower to start a small war. Your club has what, 20 members? 30? 23. 23, Eleanor laughed bitterly. I had more than that when Robert died, and it wasn't enough. We lost. We lost everything. I'm not going to let that happen to you. With respect, Mrs. Carter, you don't get to make that decision for us. Garrett crossed his arms. You said it yourself. You founded this club. You wrote our code. Well, I've read that code 1,000 times. And there's one line that's burned into my memory. He recited it from heart. A guardian does not abandon the innocent. A guardian does not flee from darkness. A guardian stands between evil and those it would destroy no matter the cost. Eleanor's eyes widened slightly. I wrote that, she whispered. I know you did, and I believe it. Every man in this club believes it. So with all due respect, ma'am, you're not running anywhere. You're under our protection now, you and Lily both. For the first time since they'd arrived, Eleanor Carter looked uncertain. Her iron composure cracked just for a moment, and Garrett glimpsed the exhausted old woman beneath. You don't know what you're promising, she said softly. You don't know what he'll do to you. Then tell us. Tell us everything. And let us help you finish what you and Robert started 45 years ago. Eleanor looked at Lily, who had been listening to everything with wide, frightened eyes. Grandma, Lily whispered, I don't want to run anymore. Something in Eleanor's face shifted. The hardness softened. The walls came down. Neither do I, baby girl. She kissed Lily's forehead. Neither do I. She looked back at Garrett. All right, Stone. You want to know the truth, the whole truth. Then pull up a chair, because this story starts in 1978, and it doesn't have a happy ending. Diesel grabbed a fallen chair and righted it. Marcus did the same with another. The other bikers filtered into the destroyed living room, finding places to sit or stand among the debris. The unconscious man, Vance Kruger, groaned, but didn't wake. Tommy zip-tied his hands and feet just to be safe. Eleanor kept Lily on her lap, arms wrapped protectively around her granddaughter. When she spoke, her voice had changed, harder, more distant, like she was reading from a book she'd tried very hard to forget. Robert and I met in 1975. I was 23. He was 26. I was working as a nurse at a clinic in East Texas, and he rode in one night with a bullet hole in his shoulder. A bullet hole? Lily looked up. Someone shot him. Someone did. 3 men tried to rob a family at a rest stop. Mother, father, 2 little kids. Robert saw it happening and intervened. He got shot for his trouble, but those 3 men ended up in the hospital, and that family went home safe. Eleanor smiled at the memory. I stitched him up. He asked me to dinner. I said yes. 6 months later, we were married. What about the bullet guys? Lily asked. Did they go to jail? Eleanor's smile faded. No, sweetheart, they didn't. Because those 3 men were members of the Black Serpents, and in East Texas in 1975, the Serpents owned everything. The police, the courts, the local government. The men who shot Robert walked free within a week. That's not fair. No, it wasn't. And Robert and I decided we weren't going to accept it. She shifted Lily's weight on her lap. At first, we just started documenting things, taking photographs, writing down names and dates, gathering evidence of serpent crimes wherever we could find it. But evidence doesn't mean anything if there's no one honest enough to act on it. Every agency we approached was either corrupted or too scared to help. So what did you do? Garrett asked. We decided that if the system wouldn't protect people, we would. Robert knew other bikers, good men who felt the same way we did. Men who were tired of watching the serpents terrorize their communities. We started meeting in secret, planning, training. Eleanor touched the angel wing patch on Garrett's vest. Robert designed this symbol. He said we needed something that would give people hope, something that would tell them help was coming. He called us the Thunder Guardians because he said we'd be like thunder after lightning, the warning that follows the strike, telling the storm that something powerful was coming. And the code? Garrett asked. You wrote that. I wrote most of it. Robert wasn't much with words, but he knew what mattered. Strength protects, violence corrupts. That was his line. Everything else grew from there. Marcus leaned forward. How many of you were there? At our peak, 47. Men and women both. I wasn't the only woman who rode. We had nurses, mechanics, teachers, farmers, ordinary people who were tired of being afraid. And you actually fought the serpents. We didn't fight them head on, that would have been suicide. We were surgical, strategic. We protected witnesses so they could testify. We smuggled threatened families out of serpent territory. We gathered intelligence and fed it to the few honest law enforcement officers we could find. Her eyes grew distant. For 3 years we were winning. The serpent's operation was hemorrhaging. We'd cost them millions in lost revenue and dozens of members who ended up in prison. Their leader at the time, a man named Vincent Morrow, put a $50,000 bounty on Robert's head. Lily gasped. $50,000. That was a lot of money back then, sweetheart. Still is. Did someone try to get it? Eleanor's face went very still. Yes, someone did. She was quiet for a long moment. We had a member named Dale Forrest. He'd been with us for 2 years. Robert trusted him completely, treated him like a brother. He was a traitor, Garrett said quietly. The worst kind. He sold us out for that $50,000, told Morrow where our clubhouse was, where our families lived, where we kept our evidence. Eleanor's hands trembled slightly. They came on the night of October 15th, 1982. I was 7 months pregnant. Robert sent me to hide in a safe house. We'd prepared a cabin in the woods about 20 miles away. He said he'd join me as soon as he made sure everyone else got out safely. Her voice cracked. He never came. Lily wrapped her small arms around her grandmother's neck. I'm sorry, Grandma. It was a massacre. Eleanor continued, her voice barely above a whisper. They killed 11 of our members that night, burned our clubhouse to the ground, destroyed almost everything we'd built. But not the evidence, Garrett said. No. Robert hid it before they came. He was the only one who knew the original location, but he told me in a coded message the week before. I retrieved it after the attack and hid it somewhere new. And Robert? Eleanor's eyes closed. They made an example of him. I won't describe what they did. Lily doesn't need to hear it. Neither do you. Just know that the man I loved, the bravest, kindest, most stubborn man I've ever known, died protecting everything he believed in. She opened her eyes, and they were burning with cold fury. And the young man who pulled the trigger, who fired the shot that finally killed him, was a 19-year-old punk named Marcus Hendricks, the same man who calls himself Viper now. Garrett's jaw tightened. He's been running the serpents all this time. Not always running, but always rising. He was Morrow's protege, groomed for leadership since that night. After Morrow died in prison about 15 years ago, Viper took over. He's made the serpents more powerful than ever, more ruthless, more connected. And he's never stopped looking for you. Never. Because as long as I have that evidence, I'm a threat. Everything on Robert financial records that could convict dozens of corrupt officials. Witness testimonies that could put serpent leaders away for life. Documentation of crimes that have no statute of limitations. Eleanor's grip tightened on Lily. If that evidence gets to the right hands, the serpents are finished. Viper knows it. That's why he spent 45 years hunting me. Tommy spoke up, his young voice hard with anger. Then let's give it to someone. FBI, DEA, whoever will take it. It's not that simple. The serpents have people everywhere. The last time I tried to hand over the evidence 20 years ago, the agent I trusted turned out to be on their payroll. He tried to kill me. I barely escaped. So what? Diesel demanded. We just wait for them to come. That's what I was planning to do. Eleanor looked at the unconscious Vance Kruger. Run again. Hide again. Keep Lily safe until I could find another way. And now, Eleanor looked at Garrett for a long moment. Now I'm wondering if maybe, just maybe, the Thunder Guardians can finish what we started. Garrett stood up. Tell us what you need. Time, resources, and most importantly, someone inside law enforcement who absolutely cannot be bought. I might know someone, Marcus said slowly. My cousin's daughter, Patricia. She's FBI, works out of the Dallas field office. Straight as an arrow, won't take a dollar that isn't hers. I'd trust her with my life. Can you reach her? I can try. Eleanor nodded slowly. That's a start, but there's something else you need to know. Something I haven't told anyone in over 40 years. She took a deep breath. The evidence isn't just hidden somewhere random. Robert and I chose a specific location somewhere that would mean something, somewhere that would honor what we built. And she looked at Garrett with those piercing eyes. It's buried under the original Thunder Guardians clubhouse. Garrett blinked. The clubhouse burned down. The building burned. The foundation didn't. Neither did the cellar underneath. Robert built a hidden compartment into the cellar floor. That's where the evidence has been sitting for 45 years. Where is the original clubhouse? The property was sold after the attack. Changed hands a few times over the years. Last I checked about 15 years ago, it was an abandoned warehouse on Miller Road. Miller Road. Tommy's eyes widened. That's only about 20 minutes from here. I know. When I decided to stop running 6 years ago, I chose Cedar Falls specifically because it was close to the evidence. Close enough to retrieve it if I ever needed to. Diesel shook his head in disbelief. You've been sitting on evidence that could destroy the Black Serpents for 45 years, and it's been 20 minutes away this whole time. I was waiting. Eleanor's voice was firm. Waiting for the right moment, the right people. People I could trust, absolutely. She looked around at the Thunder Guardians, taking in each face. I've been watching your club since I moved here. Watching how you treat people, how you protect this community, how you live the code Robert and I wrote. Her eyes found Garrett's again. I think maybe I've been waiting for you. Before Garrett could respond, Vance Kruger groaned again. This time his eyes flickered open. He looked around wildly, trying to get his bearings. When he saw Eleanor sitting calmly in her chair, his face went pale. You. His voice was raspy, barely a whisper. You crazy old... Careful. Eleanor's voice was ice. There are children present. Kruger tried to move, then realized his hands and feet were bound. His eyes darted to the bikers surrounding him. Who the hell are you people? We're the Thunder Guardians, Garrett said, and you're going to answer some questions. Kruger laughed a wet, painful sound. Thunder Guardians. You gotta be kidding me. You think you scare me? I don't care if we scare you. Garrett crouched down beside him. I care if you answer me. Who sent you? Go to hell. Wrong answer. Diesel stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. Wait. Eleanor held up her hand. Let me. She set Lily gently aside and rose from her chair. Despite her small stature and silver hair, something about the way she moved made Kruger shrink back. She walked over to him slowly, each step deliberate. You know who I am, don't you, Vance? He said nothing, but his eyes betrayed him. Viper sent you here to deliver a message. 72 hours. Or he burns this town like he burned Miller's Creek. Kruger's silence was confirmation enough. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to call Viper and tell him you failed. Tell him the old woman was harder to take than expected. Tell him she had help. He'll kill me for failing. Maybe. Or maybe he'll send more men and give you a chance to redeem yourself. Eleanor leaned closer. Either way, you're going to tell him something else. Something very important. What? Eleanor's eyes burned with cold fire. Tell Tell him Eleanor Carter is done running. Tell him she's been waiting 45 years for him to show his face. Tell him if he wants the evidence, he can come get it himself. She straightened up. Tell him the Iron Angel remembers what he did to her husband, and she's ready to finish what they started. Kruger's face went white. You're insane. He'll bring an army. I'm counting on it. Eleanor turned to Garrett. Cut him loose. Give him a phone. Let him deliver my message. You sure about this? Garrett asked. I've been running for 45 years. Hiding. Moving. Always looking over my shoulder. Eleanor looked at Lily, who was watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. My granddaughter asked me not to run anymore, and I made her a promise. She turned back to Garrett. It's time to stand and fight. One way or another, this ends now. Garrett studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Diesel, cut him loose. Marcus, give him your burner phone. As the bikers moved to comply, Eleanor returned to her chair and pulled Lily back into her arms. Grandma, Lily whispered. Are you scared? Eleanor kissed her forehead. Terrified, baby girl. Me too. Good. Eleanor held her tighter. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing the right thing anyway. That's what your great-grandfather taught me. That's what I'm teaching you. Lily nodded slowly, then looked at Garrett with determined eyes. Mr. Stone, are you going to help my grandma? Garrett crouched down to her level. Yes, Lily, I am. All of us are. Promise. I promise. Lily studied his face for a moment, then nodded solemnly. Okay, I believe you. Behind them, Vance Kruger was making his phone call, his voice trembling as he delivered Eleanor's message. And somewhere in the distance, like a storm gathering on the horizon, trouble was coming to Cedar Falls. The kind of trouble that would shake this small town to its foundations. The kind of trouble that would separate the cowards from the heroes. The kind of trouble that would finally, after 45 long years, bring the Iron Angel back to war. Vance Kruger's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. The line connected on the second ring, and a voice cold as winter steel answered. Report. Viper, it's Kruger. I failed. Silence. The kind of silence that made grown men wet themselves. Explain. The old woman. She wasn't alone. There were bikers, the Thunder Guardians. They got here before I could finish. You're telling me a 72-year-old grandmother and some small-town motorcycle club defeated you? Kruger swallowed hard. She had a message. She said she's done running. She said if you want the evidence, come get it yourself. More silence. She said something else. Kruger's voice dropped to a whisper. She said the Iron Angel remembers what you did to her husband. She said she's ready to finish what they started. The silence stretched so long Kruger thought the line had gone dead. Then Viper spoke and his voice had changed. There was something in it now, something almost like anticipation. The Iron Angel. After all these years. What do you want me to do? Stay there. Watch the house. Report everything you see. I'm coming to Cedar Falls personally. Personally, but 45 years, Kruger. I've been hunting this woman for 45 years. She killed 11 of my brothers before she disappeared. She's been a ghost haunting my organization since before you were born. Viper's voice hardened. If she wants a war, I'll give her one. Tell the others to mobilize. Full force. We move in 48 hours. The line went dead. Kruger lowered the phone and looked at Garrett with fear-glazed eyes. He's coming. He's bringing everyone. How many is everyone? I don't know exactly. 50, 60, maybe more. Eleanor's expression didn't change. Then we have 48 hours to get ready. Garrett turned to his men. Diesel, take Kruger back to the garage. Lock him in the storage room. Marcus, call your cousin. We need that FBI contact now. Tommy, Jake. I want every member at the clubhouse in 1 hour, no exceptions. What about Mrs. Carter and the girl? Diesel asked. They're coming with us. They don't leave our sight until this is over. Eleanor stood, lifting Lily onto her hip despite the girl's weight. I can take care of myself. I know you can, ma'am. I saw your handiwork on Kruger's face, but right now we do this together. That's not negotiable. For a moment, Eleanor looked like she might argue. Then she nodded slowly. Together. I haven't done that in a long time. Then it's about time you remembered how. The Thunder Guardians clubhouse was a converted auto shop on the edge of town. By the time Garrett arrived with Eleanor and Lily, 17 members were already assembled. The others trickled in over the next 20 minutes until all 23 stood in the main room. Garrett had never called a full emergency meeting before. The tension was thick enough to cut. Listen up, he said, standing at the front of the room. What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this building. Anyone who can't keep their mouth shut, leave now. Nobody moved. Good. Garrett took a breath. Most of you know this woman as Eleanor Carter, the grandmother who lives on Willow Lane. Some of you have fixed her car, mowed her lawn, helped her with groceries. He paused. What none of you knew is that Eleanor Carter is the founding member of this club. She and her husband Robert started the Thunder Guardians in 1978. They wrote the code we live by. They designed the patches we wear. Murmurs rippled through the room. Robert Carter was killed by the Black Serpents in 1982. Eleanor went into hiding to protect their unborn daughter. She's been running ever since. Running from what? A member named Bull asked. From Marcus Hendricks, the man they call Viper, current leader of the Black Serpents. The murmurs grew louder. Everyone knew that name. 3 hours ago, a serpent enforcer broke into Eleanor's home to deliver a message. She has 72 hours to hand over evidence that could destroy the serpent's evidence she's kept hidden for 45 years. If she refuses, Viper has threatened to burn Cedar Falls to the ground. So give him the evidence, someone called out. Let the law handle it. It's not that simple. Eleanor stepped forward, Lily still in her arms. The serpents have people in law enforcement, in the courts, in every agency that might use this evidence. I've tried to hand it over before. The last time the agent I trusted tried to kill me. She looked around the room. The evidence is comprehensive. Financial records, witness testimonies, documentation of murders, trafficking operations, corruption at every level. If it reaches the right hand's hands that can't be bought, the Black Serpents are finished. And Viper knows this, Garrett continued. That's why he's been hunting Eleanor for 45 years. That's why he's coming here personally with at least 50 men. The room went quiet. 50. Bull's voice was flat. Against our 23. Against 24. Eleanor's voice was steel. I'm not sitting this out. Ma'am, with respect. With respect, nothing. I've been fighting the serpents since before most of you were born. I put Vance Kruger on the floor with a broken arm, and I'm twice his age. Don't mistake gray hair for weakness. Bull held up his hands in surrender. Yes, ma'am. Here's what we know, Garrett said. Viper is mobilizing. He'll be here in 48 hours, maybe less. We need to retrieve the evidence before he arrives. Find a trustworthy contact in law enforcement and prepare for the possibility that things go sideways. And if they do go sideways, then we fight. That's what Guardians do. Diesel stepped forward. I'm in, whatever it takes. Me too, Marcus said. One by one, every member voiced their commitment. When the last voice faded, Garrett nodded. Then let's get to work. Marcus made the call to his cousin Patricia within the hour. She agreed to drive down from Dallas immediately, a 4-hour trip that she made in 3. FBI Special Agent Patricia Holmes was 34 years old, with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. She arrived at the clubhouse just after midnight, still in the suit she'd worn to work that morning. Marcus, she hugged her cousin briefly. You said this was urgent. Life or death? Both. Marcus led her inside. There's someone you need to meet. Eleanor was sitting at a table, Lily asleep in her lap. She looked up as Patricia approached. Mrs. Carter. Agent Holmes, thank you for coming. Marcus says you have evidence against the Black Serpents. Evidence that could bring down their entire organization. I do. The question is whether you can be trusted with it. Patricia's eyes hardened. I've spent 6 years building cases against organized crime. I've never taken a bribe, never looked the other way, never compromised an investigation. My integrity isn't for sale. That's what the last agent told me, right before he put a gun to my head. I'm not him. No. Eleanor studied her for a long moment. No, you're not. I can see that. She reached into her cardigan and pulled out a folded piece of paper. This is a map. It shows the location of a hidden compartment in the cellar of an abandoned warehouse on Miller Road. Inside that compartment is everything you need to destroy the black serpents. Patricia took the paper carefully. Why haven't you retrieved it yourself? Because the moment I do, I become a target. As long as the evidence is hidden, I have leverage. The second it's in my hands, I'm just an old woman who knows too much. And now I have protection. Eleanor looked at Garrett. Now I have people I trust. It's time to finish this. Patricia unfolded the map and studied it. I can have a team here by tomorrow afternoon. We'll secure the evidence and no teams. Eleanor's voice was sharp. No official channels. The serpents have eyes everywhere. The only people who touch that evidence are people in this room. Mrs. Carter, that's not how federal investigations work. Then make an exception, because if you bring in a team, I guarantee at least one of them will be compromised. And then we're all dead. Patricia looked at Marcus. He nodded slowly. She's right, Patty. I've heard stories about the Serpent's Reach. They've got people in places you wouldn't believe. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then she folded the map and tucked it into her pocket. I'll need to see the evidence myself. Verify its authenticity. If it's what you say it is, I can take it directly to the assistant director. He's clean. I'd stake my life on it. You might be staking all our lives on it. Then I'd better be right. Eleanor nodded slowly. We retrieve the evidence tomorrow at first light, before Viper gets close enough to interfere. Agreed. Patricia looked around the room. In the meantime, I'd suggest getting some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. Nobody argued with that. Garrett couldn't sleep. He stood outside the clubhouse watching the stars, turning everything over in his mind. The weight of leadership had never felt heavier. Can't rest either. He turned. Eleanor had appeared beside him, moving silently despite her age. Too much to think about. I know the feeling. She stood beside him, following his gaze to the sky. 45 years I've been carrying this weight. Some nights I forgot what peace felt like. How did you do it all those years of running, hiding, raising a daughter alone, raising a granddaughter? How did you keep going? Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Robert, she finally said, I kept going for him, because giving up would have meant his death was meaningless. That everything we built, everything we fought for, everything we sacrificed, all of it, would have been for nothing. She turned to face Garrett. And then there was the code. Every time I wanted to quit, I'd recite it to myself. Strength protects. Violence corrupts. A guardian does not abandon the innocent. Those words kept me alive when nothing else could. You wrote them. Robert and I wrote them together, but I've lived them alone for 45 years. Garrett was quiet for a moment. When this is over, when Viper is dealt with and the serpents are destroyed, what will you do? Eleanor smiled faintly. I don't know. I've been running so long, I'm not sure I remember how to stand still. You could stay. Here. With us. With the club I founded. With the family you started. Garrett met her eyes. You've been alone too long, Mrs. Carter. Maybe it's time to come home. Eleanor's eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears back. Let's survive the next 48 hours first. Then we'll talk about home. She patted his arm and walked back inside. Garrett watched her go, then turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, Viper was coming. 50 men, maybe more, coming to destroy everything they were trying to protect. And standing between them was an old woman, a little girl, and 23 bikers who just learned they were part of something bigger than they'd ever imagined. Garrett hoped it would be enough. He had a feeling they were about to find out. The sun rose bloody red over Cedar Falls. Garrett gathered his team at 6 a.m. himself, Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake, and Eleanor. Patricia would stay at the clubhouse with Lily and the remaining members. "You're sure about this?" Garrett asked Eleanor for the third time. "The evidence has been sitting there for 45 years. It can wait another day." "No, it can't." Eleanor's voice was firm. "Viper is mobilizing. Every hour we wait is an hour he gets closer. We retrieve the evidence now while we still have the advantage." "Fine, but you stay in the truck until we've cleared the building." Eleanor's eyes flashed. "I don't take orders from the president of your club." Garrett held her gaze. "Because that's what I am. And right now, keeping you alive is my top priority. So yes, ma'am, you stay in the truck. That's not a request." For a moment, the air crackled between them. Then Eleanor laughed a genuine laugh that transformed her face. "You remind me of Robert. Stubborn as a mule and twice as ornery." "I'll take that as a compliment." "You should." They loaded into 2 trucks and pulled out of the clubhouse just as the sun cleared the horizon. The warehouse on Milder Road looked exactly like what it was, a forgotten relic of a dead dream. The building had been abandoned for at least a decade. Broken windows, rusted doors, weeds growing through cracks in the parking lot. But underneath that decay, hidden in the foundation, was the key to destroying the black serpents forever. Garrett killed the engine and scanned the area. "Looks clear." "Looks can be deceiving," Eleanor said from the back seat. "The serpents taught me that." "Diesel, Tommy, take the perimeter. Marcus, Jake, you're with me inside. Mrs. Carter stays in the truck. I heard you the first 3 times." Garrett allowed himself a small smile. "Yes, ma'am." They moved in quickly and quietly. The warehouse door was rusted shut, but Jake had brought bolt cutters. Within minutes, they were inside. The interior was exactly what Garrett expected. Empty, dusty, the skeleton of a building that had once been something more. "The cellar entrance is in the back corner." Eleanor's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. "There should be a trap door under some debris." They found it exactly where she said it would be. The trapdoor was heavy, covered in 45 years of accumulated junk, but Marcus and Jake managed to wrench it open. A ladder descended into darkness. "I'll go first," Garrett said. The cellar was smaller than he expected, maybe 20 feet square. Concrete walls, concrete floor, a single bare bulb that hadn't worked in decades. "Mrs. Carter, we're in the cellar. Where's the compartment?" "North wall. There should be a section of floor that sounds different when you tap it. Robert built a false bottom." Garrett found it on his 3rd try. A hollow sound where there should have been solid concrete. "Got it. There's a release mechanism. Feel along the edge of the hollow section. You should find a small notch." He found the notch, pressed it, heard a click. A section of floor popped up an inch. Garrett lifted it carefully, revealing a metal box about the size of a toolbox. It was covered in dust, but completely intact. "I've got it. Don't open it down there. Bring it up." Garrett grabbed the box and climbed back up the ladder. His heart was pounding. 45 years. This box had been sitting here for 45 years waiting for this moment. He emerged into the warehouse proper and carried the box toward the door. That's when he heard the gunshot. "Get down!" Garrett hit the floor as bullets tore through the warehouse walls. The metal box flew from his hands, skidding across the concrete. "Marcus, Jake." "We're pinned," Marcus shouted from somewhere to his left. "They came out of nowhere." The warehouse erupted into chaos. More gunshots, shattering glass, the roar of motorcycle engines outside. The serpents had found them. Garrett crawled toward the box, staying low. A bullet sparked off the concrete inches from his head. "Diesel, Tommy, status." His walkie-talkie crackled. "Diesel here. We've got at least 10 hostiles outside. The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Garrett reached the box and grabbed it. He rolled behind a concrete pillar, heart hammering. How had they known Stone Marcus appeared beside him, bleeding from a cut on his forehead? "We need to move." "The back door." "Blocked." I checked. More bullets tore through the warehouse. They were surrounded. And then impossibly, Garrett heard an engine roar to life outside. Not a motorcycle. Something bigger. A truck. The front wall of the warehouse exploded inward as a vehicle crashed through it. Serpent gunmen scattered screaming. The truck skidded to a stop and Eleanor Carter leaned out the driver's window, a rifle in her hands. "Get in now." Garrett didn't hesitate. He sprinted for the truck, the metal box clutched against his chest. Marcus and Jake were right behind him. They piled into the truck bed as Eleanor floored the accelerator. The vehicle shot forward, crashing through the Serpent line. Bullets pinged off the tailgate. Garrett kept his head down, covering the evidence box with his body. "Diesel Tommy," he shouted into the walkie-talkie. "Fall back to the secondary rendezvous." Static. Then Diesel's voice, strained but alive. "Copy that, we're mobile." The truck roared down Miller Road, leaving the chaos behind. Garrett crawled to the cab window. "I thought I told you to stay in the truck." Eleanor's eyes were fixed on the road, but she was smiling. "I did stay in the truck. I just moved it." Despite everything, Garrett laughed. How did they know we were there? The smile vanished from Eleanor's face. There's only one way they could have known. Someone told them. A traitor. In your club, someone's been feeding information to the serpents. Garrett felt his blood run cold. That's impossible. These are my brothers. I had brothers too. One of them sold us out for $50,000. Eleanor's voice was bitter. Trust no one. Not until we figure out who the mole is. Garrett looked back at Marcus and Jake, both bloodied but alive. The evidence box sat between them. One of them, impossible. But then who? The question burned in his mind as they sped toward the secondary rendezvous point. They'd gotten the evidence. They'd survived the ambush. But somewhere in the Thunder Guardians, a traitor was waiting, and until they found him, none of them were safe. The secondary rendezvous was an old barn on the outskirts of Cedar Falls. Diesel and Tommy arrived 10 minutes after the others, both banged up, but breathing. What the hell happened out there? Diesel demanded. We were supposed to have hours before they got here. Someone tipped them off, Garrett said flatly. We have a mole. The words landed like a bomb. A mole. Tommy's face went pale. That's insane. Who would? I don't know, but I intend to find out. Eleanor sat in the truck bed, the evidence box on her lap. She was staring at it with an expression Garrett couldn't read. Mrs. Carter, I'm thinking. Her voice was distant. About who knew. About who could have told them. Only people in that room last night knew about the warehouse. You, me, Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake, Patricia. Patricia. Eleanor looked up sharply. The FBI agent. She's the only one who had the map. Marcus vouches for her. Marcus vouches for his cousin. That doesn't mean his cousin isn't compromised. Marcus stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. Patty would never. Wouldn't she? Eleanor cut him off. I trusted an FBI agent once. He held a gun to my head. Forgive me if I don't take your word for it. This is insane, Marcus was shouting now. Patty's family, she's not a traitor. Then who is? The question hung in the air. Nobody had an answer. Garrett held up his hand. Enough. Fighting among ourselves is exactly what Viper wants. Right now, we focus on what matters, getting this evidence to someone who can use it. He looked at Eleanor. Is Patricia still at the clubhouse with Lily? As far as I know. Then we go there. We confront her directly. If she's clean, she can prove it. If she's not. He left the sentence unfinished. Eleanor nodded slowly. Agreed. But we go in careful. And we don't let her anywhere near Lily until we know for sure. The group loaded back into the trucks. As they pulled away from the barn, Garrett couldn't shake the feeling that they were driving toward something worse than an ambush. They were driving toward a betrayal, and he still didn't know who to trust. The clubhouse was quiet when they arrived. Too quiet. Garrett was the first through the door. His hand went to his weapon. Patricia. No answer. Bull. Anyone. The main room was empty, chairs overturned, a table pushed against the wall like there'd been a struggle, and sitting in the middle of the floor was a cell phone. Garrett picked it up. The screen lit up with a video message. He pressed play. Viper's face filled the screen. Pale eyes. Cruel smile. A face that had haunted Eleanor's nightmares for 45 years. Hello, Stone. By now you've realized that things aren't going according to plan. Don't worry, your people are alive. Most of them, anyway. The camera panned to show Patricia Holmes bound in gag terror in her eyes. Behind her, Bull and 3 other Thunder Guardians, similarly restrained. And in the corner, held by a massive serpent enforcer, was Lily. The little girl wasn't crying. Her face was pale, jaw set, eyes blazing with defiance that broke Garrett's heart. Here's how this is going to work, Viper continued. You have something I want. I have something you want. A trade. Simple as that. His smile widened. Bring Eleanor Carter and the evidence to the old steel mill on Route 7. Tomorrow night. Midnight. Come alone, just Eleanor and whoever's carrying the box. Anyone else shows up and I start killing hostages, starting with the little girl. The camera zoomed in on Lily's face. She's got her great-grandmother's eyes, doesn't she? I wonder if she has her spine, too. I wonder if she'll scream when I... The video cut off. Garrett stood frozen, phone in hand. Behind him, Eleanor made a sound, a broken animal sound that he'd never heard from her before. She pushed past him, grabbed the phone, watched the video again. Her face went from white to gray to something beyond color. Lily. Her voice was barely a whisper. They have my Lily. Garrett turned to face his remaining men. Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake. 4 others who'd arrived during the firefight. 9 people against Viper's army. And somewhere in the clubhouse, a traitor had made all of this possible. We're going to get her back, Garrett said. I don't care what it takes. We're going to get all of them back. Eleanor looked at him, and for the first time he saw something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Fear. Real bone-deep fear. Not for herself. For the little girl who'd inherited her eyes and her courage and was now in the hands of a monster who'd been hunting her family for nearly half a century. Midnight tomorrow, Eleanor said softly. That gives us 20 hours. Then we'd better get to work. Garrett looked at the evidence box still clutched in Marcus's arms. 20 hours to find a traitor. 20 hours to plan a rescue. 20 hours before Eleanor Carter had to face the man who murdered her husband. The clock was ticking. And somewhere in the darkness, Viper was waiting. Eleanor watched the video 7 times. Each time her eyes locked on Lily's face. The defiance in those blue eyes. The set of that small jaw. The way her granddaughter refused to cry even with a monster's hand on her shoulder. She's strong, Garrett said quietly. Just like you. She's 7 years old. Eleanor's voice cracked. She shouldn't have to be strong. She should be playing with dolls and reading picture books and believing the world is safe. We're going to get her back. You keep saying that. Eleanor finally looked up, and the pain in her eyes hit Garrett like a physical blow. How 9 of us against 50 will be dead before we reach the door. Then we don't go through the door. Eleanor stared at him. What are you talking about? I'm talking about fighting smart instead of fighting hard. Garrett pulled out a chair and sat across from her. Viper expects you to come alone. He expects you to be desperate, scared, willing to do anything to save Lily. He's counting on that. He's right. I am desperate. Good. Use it. But don't let it make you stupid. Eleanor's eyes flashed. Careful, boy. I'm not a boy, ma'am. I'm the president of the club you founded. And right now I need you to think like the Iron Angel, not like a terrified grandmother. For a long moment, Eleanor said nothing. Then something shifted in her face. The fear didn't disappear, but it moved aside, making room for something harder. Something colder. What did you have in mind? Garrett leaned forward. First, we find the traitor. Second, we use them to feed false information to Viper. Third, we hit him somewhere he doesn't expect. And fourth, we burn the black serpents to the ground. Eleanor studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Robert would have liked you. I'll take that as a compliment. You should. She straightened in her chair, and Garrett watched the transformation happen in real time. The frightened grandmother receded. The Iron Angel emerged. All right, Stone. Let's find our traitor. They gathered in the back room of the clubhouse, Garrett, Eleanor, Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake, and the 4 remaining members who'd escaped the serpent ambush. 9 people. One of them, a traitor. Here's what we know, Garrett said. Someone told the serpents we'd be at the warehouse this morning. Someone gave them our location. Someone made that ambush possible. He looked around the room. That person is in this building right now. The tension was immediate. Eyes darted. Shoulders stiffened. Trust fractured in real time. This is bull, Diesel growled. I've known everyone here for years. Nobody would... Somebody did. Garrett's voice was flat. And until we figure out who, none of us can trust anyone. Then how do we find them? Tommy asked. Eleanor spoke up. Process of elimination. Who knew about the warehouse? Who had the opportunity to contact the serpents? Everyone in the meeting last night knew about the evidence, Marcus said, but only a few of us knew we were going this morning. Who exactly? Garrett counted on his fingers. Me, Eleanor, Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake, Patricia. Patricia's being held hostage, Tommy pointed out. Why would the serpents take their own informant? Cover, Eleanor said, to throw off suspicion. Marcus's face reddened. I already told you Patty's not the mole. Then who is? Garrett demanded. Because someone in this room made a phone call. Someone tipped them off. Silence. Then Jake spoke, his voice quiet. What about Bull? Everyone turned to look at him. He was captured too, Jake continued. But he was here at the clubhouse when we left. He knew where we were going. He had time to make a call. Bull's been with us for 8 years, Diesel protested. So was Dale Forrest with the original club, Eleanor said coldly. And he sold them out for $50,000. The silence stretched. Garrett ran a hand over his face. We're going in circles. We need proof, not speculation. Then let's get proof. Eleanor stood. The serpents communicate through burner phones. Whoever the mole is, they've been making calls to a serpent number. If we can find the phone, we find the traitor. You want to search everyone? I want to search everything. Phones, bags, vehicles, everything. Garrett looked around the room. Anyone object? No one spoke. Then let's do it. They searched for an hour. Every phone was checked. Every bag was emptied. Every vehicle was turned inside out. Nothing. This is pointless, Tommy said, frustration bleeding into his voice. If there's a mole, they're too smart to leave evidence lying around. Eleanor stood in the corner, arms crossed, thinking. Something was nagging at her. Something she'd missed. The timing, she said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. The ambush happened less than an hour after we left the clubhouse. The serpents were already in position when we arrived. That means whoever made the call had to do it before we left. We were all together before we left, Diesel said. No. There was a 15-minute window after the meeting ended. Everyone scattered to gather gear. Anyone could have made a call during that time. Garrett's eyes narrowed. Where were each of you during those 15 minutes? I was loading the trucks, Marcus said. I was checking weapons, Diesel added. I went to the bathroom, Tommy said. Everyone looked at him. What, I had to go? The bathroom, Eleanor said slowly. Where is it? End of the hall. Why? Eleanor was already moving. She walked down the hallway past the bathroom and stopped at a window at the end of the corridor. A window that looked out over the parking lot. A window that was slightly open. Here, she said. Someone stood here, made a call, then went to the bathroom to establish an alibi. Garrett joined her, but that doesn't tell us who. No. Eleanor's eyes scanned the floor. But this might. She crouched down and picked something up, a cigarette butt still fresh. Who in your club smokes? A few people. Diesel, Bull, Jake. Not anymore. Jake's voice came from behind them. I quit 6 months ago. Eleanor held up the cigarette. This is a Marlboro Red. Who smokes Marlboro Reds? The silence was deafening. Then Diesel said quietly, Derek does. Derek Williams. Razor. He's our vice president. Eleanor's blood went cold. Where is he now? He wasn't here when the serpents hit. Said he was running errands. Running errands. Eleanor's voice was bitter. How convenient. Garrett pulled out his phone. Has anyone heard from Razor since the attack? Heads shook. Try calling him. Garrett dialed. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then voicemail. Razor, it's Stone. Call me back. Now. He hung up and met Eleanor's eyes. Our vice president, the man I trusted more than anyone in this club. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Garrett's jaw tightened. Because when I find him, I'm going to make him wish he'd never been born. 3 hours later, they found him. Not because of brilliant detective work, not because of careful tracking, because Derek Razor Williams walked right through the front door of the clubhouse like nothing had happened. He froze when he saw the guns pointed at his chest. Stone. What the hell is going on? Where have you been, Razor? I told you I had errands. For 3 hours, while the serpents ambushed us, while they took 4 of our brothers hostage, while they grabbed a 7-year-old girl. Razor's face paled. What I didn't know, you didn't know. Garrett stepped forward. You didn't know about the ambush you set up. Stone, I don't know what you're talking about. We found the cigarette Razor, the one you smoked while you made the call, the window at the end of the hall, the 15-minute window before we left. Razor's expression shifted. The surprise melted away, replaced by something cold and calculating. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Why? The word exploded from Garrett. Why would you do this? These are your brothers. Brothers. Razor laughed bitterly. Brothers don't make you second in command and then treat you like a glorified errand boy. Brothers don't ignore your ideas, overrule your decisions, make you feel like nothing you do matters. So you sold us out. For what money, power? For respect. Razor's eyes blazed. Viper offered me a place at his table, a real leadership position, not this small-town joke of a club playing dress-up. You're pathetic. I'm practical. Razor shrugged. The serpents are going to win. They always win. I'm just picking the winning side. Eleanor stepped forward and Razor's confidence flickered. You know who I am? She asked quietly. The old lady. The one Viper's been hunting. The one who's going to destroy him. Eleanor's voice was ice. And you just made a very big mistake. Yeah, what's that? You gave us exactly what we needed. Razor frowned. What are you talking about? You think Viper trusts you? You think he'll keep you around after this is over? Eleanor shook her head. You're a tool. The moment you're no longer useful, he'll put you in the ground like every other traitor. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've seen it before. Dale Forrest sold out the original Thunder Guardians. You know what happened to him? Razor said nothing. Viper's predecessor killed him 3 months after the attack, shot him in the head, and dumped his body in a ditch, because traitors can't be trusted. Ever. For the first time, real fear flickered in Razor's eyes. You've got 2 choices, Eleanor continued. Help us take down Viper and maybe you survive this, or stay loyal to a man who's going to kill you anyway and die for nothing. You can't protect me from the serpents. No, but I can give you a head start. Enough money to disappear. A new identity. A chance to start over somewhere far away from here. Razor looked from Eleanor to Garrett to the gun still pointed at his chest. And if I refuse, then we tie you up and use you as bait. Garrett's voice was flat. Trade you to Viper in exchange for our people. Let him deal with a traitor who got caught. The color drained from Razor's face. You wouldn't. Try me. Long seconds passed. The tension was suffocating. Then Razor's shoulders slumped. What do you want to know? They interrogated him for 2 hours. Every detail about the Serpent's operation, every name he knew, every piece of information he'd fed to Viper over the past 2 years. It was worse than Garrett had imagined. Razor had been reporting on Thunder Guardian activities since he first made contact with the Serpents, meeting locations, member addresses, financial information, everything. How did they find out Eleanor was alive? Garrett demanded. They've known for years, Razor admitted. They just couldn't find her. She was good at hiding, but when she moved to Cedar Falls, someone recognized her at a grocery store. An old Serpent associate who retired here. He reported it, and Viper started planning. Planning what? The retrieval. He wanted the evidence, but he also wanted her. Personally. Something about unfinished business from 45 years ago. Eleanor's face was stone. What does he know about the exchange tomorrow night? Everything, the location, the time. How many people you're bringing? How many does he have at the steel mill? At least 40, maybe more. Plus he's got snipers positioned around the perimeter. Snipers. Garrett's jaw tightened. So even if we come alone, we're dead. That's the idea. He's not planning to let anyone walk out of there alive. Not you, not the hostages, nobody. Then why make the trade at all? Razor hesitated. Tell me. He wants to kill her himself, face to face. He's been waiting 45 years for this. It's personal for him. Eleanor's voice was quiet. Tell me about the night he killed my husband. Razor looked uncomfortable. I don't know the details. That was before my time. Tell me what you do know. Just stories. Legends, really. They say Viper was just a kid when it happened, 19 or 20. He was the one who pulled the trigger on Robert Carter, his first kill. He's been bragging about it ever since. Does he know I'm coming for him? He thinks you're a scared old woman who's going to walk into his trap and die. He has no idea what you're really capable of. Eleanor smiled, and it was the coldest thing Garrett had ever seen. Good. Let's keep it that way. Gisham. The plan came together over the next 6 hours. They couldn't go to the exchange, not directly. Viper had too many men, too much firepower, too many advantages. A frontal assault was suicide, but they had something Viper didn't know about. They had his traitor. Here's what's going to happen, Garrett explained to Razor. You're going to contact Viper. Tell him everything is going according to plan. Tell him Eleanor is scared, desperate, willing to hand over the evidence without a fight. He'll believe that. He'll believe what he wants to believe. And what he wants to believe is that he's already won. Then what? Then you're going to tell him the exchange location has changed. A last-minute switch because Eleanor got spooked. Razor frowned. He'll be suspicious. He'll be suspicious anyway, but he'll come. He's waited 45 years for this. He won't risk letting her slip away again. Where's the new location? Garrett pulled out a map and pointed. The old Miller Road warehouse. The warehouse, that's where you found the evidence. It's also the place where the original Thunder Guardians clubhouse stood, the place where my husband died. Eleanor's voice was hard. If I'm going to face Viper, I'm going to do it there, on my ground, in my house. Razor stared at her. You're insane. Maybe, but I'm also the woman who put Vance Kruger on the floor with a broken arm. I'm the woman who survived 45 years of being hunted. I'm the woman who helped build an organization that could have destroyed the Serpents if my husband hadn't been betrayed. She leaned forward. And I'm the woman who's going to watch Marcus Hendricks die, one way or another. The call went out at 8 p.m. Razor delivered the message exactly as instructed. The new location. The new time, 10 p.m. instead of midnight. Just Eleanor and one escort carrying the evidence. Viper was suspicious, just as they'd predicted. But he agreed. He's coming, Razor said after hanging up. But he's bringing extra men. At least 20 more than originally planned. We expected that. Garrett turned to his remaining members. Everyone knows their positions. Nods all around. Diesel, you've got the east entrance. Marcus west. Tommy and Jake, you're with me on the perimeter. Everyone else, we wait for Eleanor's signal. What about me? Razor asked. You're coming with us, where we can see you. You still don't trust me. You sold us out for 2 years. Trust takes time to rebuild. Garrett grabbed his jacket. If this works, maybe we start. If it doesn't, you die with the rest of us. Razor swallowed hard. Move out, Garrett ordered. We've got 2 hours.
Jackson.
The warehouse was dark when they arrived. Garrett positioned his people carefully, using every bit of cover the abandoned building offered. They were outnumbered at least 5-1, but they had something Viper didn't expect. They had the home field advantage, and they had Eleanor. She stood alone in the center of the warehouse floor, the evidence box at her feet. She'd changed out of her grandmother clothes. Now she wore dark jeans boots and a leather jacket that looked like it had seen decades of hard use. Around her neck hung the key she'd carried for 45 years. "You ready?" Garrett asked through the earpiece. "I've been ready for 45 years. At exactly 10 p.m., headlights appeared on Miller Road. Lots of headlights. Motorcycles, trucks, SUVs. The Black Serpents arrived in force, surrounding the warehouse like an army preparing to siege a castle. Garrett counted at least 60 men, 60 against 9. "Hold positions," he whispered into the radio. "Nobody moves until Eleanor gives the signal." The warehouse door crashed open. Viper walked in first, flanked by 4 massive bodyguards. Behind them came more serpents fanning out to cover every corner of the space. And in the middle of their formation, hands bound, mouths gagged, stumbled the hostages. Patricia Holmes, Bull, 3 other Thunder Guardians, and Lily. Eleanor's breath caught when she saw her granddaughter. Lily was pale, exhausted, terrified, but alive. Her eyes found Eleanor across the warehouse floor, and something like hope flickered in them. "Grandma." The word was muffled by the gag, but Eleanor heard it anyway. "I'm here, baby," she called out. "Everything's going to be okay." Viper laughed. The sound echoed off the concrete walls. "Eleanor Carter, the Iron Angel herself. I have to say you're smaller than I expected." He stepped forward and Eleanor got her first clear look at the man who'd murdered her husband. Marcus Hendricks was in his early 60s now. Tall, lean, silver hair pulled back in a ponytail. He moved like a predator, all coiled muscle and controlled violence. But it was his eyes that made Eleanor's blood run cold. Pale gray. Empty. The eyes of a man who'd killed so many people he'd stopped counting. "You know," Viper continued, circling her slowly, "I've been dreaming about this moment for 45 years. The night I killed your husband, I thought that was the end of it. Mission accomplished. But you just kept running, hiding, slipping through my fingers like smoke. And yet here I am. Here you are." Viper smiled. "Walked right into my trap like a lamb to slaughter. Did I?" Something in Eleanor's voice made Viper pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're not as smart as you think you are, Marcus. It means you've been so focused on hunting me that you forgot to watch your own back." Viper's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" Eleanor reached into her jacket and pulled out a phone. She held it up so Viper could see the screen. "This is a live feed to the FBI field office in Dallas. They've been watching everything since you walked through that door. Your face, your voice, your confession about murdering my husband." The color drained from Viper's face. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Eleanor tilted her head. "Agent Holmes over there has been building a case against you for 6 years. Everything in that evidence box. She's already seen it, copied it, sent it to the one person in the federal government who absolutely cannot be bought, the assistant director himself." "Kill her!" Viper screamed. But before his men could move, the warehouse exploded into chaos. Every window shattered simultaneously. Flashbang grenades tumbled through the openings, filling the space with blinding light and deafening noise. The Thunder Guardians attacked from every direction. Garrett burst from cover, tackling the guard nearest to the hostages. Diesel was right behind him, cutting through zip ties with a combat knife. Marcus and Tommy hit the eastern flank, drawing fire away from Eleanor. And Eleanor herself moved like nothing Garrett had ever seen. She was 72 years old. She had gray hair and reading glasses and arthritic knuckles. But in that moment, she was the Iron Angel again, the woman who'd built an army and nearly destroyed the Black Serpent single-handedly. She hit the first guard with a palm strike that dropped him instantly. The second caught an elbow to the throat. The third tried to grab her from behind, and she flipped him over her shoulder like he weighed nothing. "Lily!" she screamed. "Come to Grandma!" Lily had wriggled free of her restraints the moment the chaos started. She ran toward Eleanor, small legs pumping, tears streaming down her face. But Viper was faster. He grabbed the little girl by the arm and yanked her backward, pressing a gun to her temple. "Nobody move." The fighting stopped. Everyone froze. Viper stood in the center of the warehouse, using Lily as a shield. His pale eyes were wild now, all pretense of control gone. "You think you've won," he snarled. "You think this changes anything? Let her go." Eleanor's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "She's 7 years old. This is between you and me." "You're right. It is." Viper pressed the gun harder against Lily's head. "And here's how it ends. You drop that phone. You tell your FBI friends to back off. And then you come with me, just you or I, splatter your granddaughter's brains across this floor." "Grandma." Lily's voice was small but clear. "Don't do it." "Shut up." Viper shook her roughly. "Grandma, remember what you taught me?" Lily's eyes met Eleanor's. "About being scared and doing the right thing anyway." Eleanor's heart stopped. "Baby, don't..." But Lily was already moving. She stomped down hard on Viper's foot with all her weight. When his grip loosened in surprise, she twisted sideways and bit his hand as hard as she could. Viper screamed and dropped her, and Eleanor launched herself at him like a missile. Eleanor hit Viper like a freight train. 72 years of rage, 45 years of running, a lifetime of grief and loss and fury, all of it concentrated into a single devastating collision. They crashed to the concrete floor together, the gun flying from Viper's hand and skittering away into the darkness. Eleanor was on top of him, fists swinging, connecting with his face again and again. "You killed him." Each word was punctuated by a blow. "You killed my Robert." Viper caught her wrist on the fourth swing. Despite his age, despite the surprise, he was still strong. He twisted, throwing Eleanor off balance, reversing their positions. Now he was on top, hands closing around her throat. "I've been waiting 45 years for this," he hissed. "You should have stayed hidden, old woman." Eleanor clawed at his hands, gasping for air. Her vision started to blur at the edges. Then Lily screamed. Not a scream of fear, a scream of rage. The 7-year-old launched herself at Viper, small fists pounding against his back. "Leave my grandma alone. Leave her alone." Viper released Eleanor with one hand to swat Lily away. It was a mistake. Eleanor's freed hand shot up, fingers jabbing directly into Viper's eyes. He howled and reeled backward, clutching his face. "Lily, run!" Eleanor gasped, struggling to her feet. But Lily didn't run. She grabbed her grandmother's hand and pulled. "This way! Come on!" The warehouse had erupted into total chaos. Thunder guardians and serpents clashed in every corner. Gunshots echoed. Bodies fell. The air was thick with smoke from the flashbang grenades. Garrett appeared at Eleanor's side, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. "We need to move. FBI's ETA is 3 minutes. "Viper." "He's not going anywhere. We've got the exits covered." Eleanor shook her head. "You don't understand. He'll die before he goes to prison. He'll take everyone with him." As if to prove her point, Viper's voice cut through the chaos. "Burn it. Burn it all." Eleanor's blood went cold. Through the smoke, she saw Serpent members pulling out bottles. Molotov cocktails, crude but effective. They lit them one by one, throwing them against the walls, the support beams, the piles of debris that littered the warehouse floor. Fire erupted everywhere. "Everyone out!" Garrett screamed. "Now!" The fighting stopped as survival instinct kicked in. Serpents and Thunder Guardians alike scrambled for the exits, the battle temporarily forgotten in the face of the inferno. But Eleanor wasn't moving toward the exit. She was moving toward Viper. "Mrs. Carter," Garrett grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" "Finishing this." Eleanor pulled free. "Get Lily out. Get everyone out. I'll be right behind you." "Like hell you will." "That's an order, Stone." Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. "I founded this club. You answer to me. Now get my granddaughter to safety." Garrett hesitated for one agonizing second. Then he scooped Lily into his arms and ran. "Grandma!" Lily screamed, reaching back over Garrett's shoulder. "Grandma, no!" Eleanor watched them go. Then she turned and walked into the flames. Viper was struggling to stand when she found him. The fire had spread fast, cutting off most escape routes. Smoke billowed toward the ceiling, thick and choking. The heat was intense, almost unbearable. But Eleanor barely felt it. All she felt was the cold fury that had been building for 45 years. "Just you and me now," she said. Viper looked up, blinking through damaged eyes. Blood ran down his face from where her fingers had gouged him. "You're insane. We'll both die in here." "Maybe, but you'll die first." Viper laughed, a wet, painful sound. "You really think you can kill me? You're a 72-year-old woman. I've killed more people than you've had birthdays. You killed my husband. I've killed a lot of husbands. You'll have to be more specific." Eleanor's vision went red. She moved faster than she had in decades. Her fist connected with Viper's jaw, snapping his head back. He swung wildly, and she ducked under his arm, driving an elbow into his ribs. They fought like animals in the burning warehouse. No skill, no technique. Just raw, primal violence fueled by decades of hatred. Viper was stronger, younger, more experienced in combat. But Eleanor had something he didn't. She had nothing left to lose. He caught her with a punch that split her lip. She staggered but didn't fall. He kicked at her legs and she twisted away, coming back with a strike to his throat that made him choke. October 15th, 1982. Eleanor snarled. "You remember that date?" Viper coughed, gasping for air. "Should I?" "It was the night you murdered Robert Carter. The night you killed 11 Thunder Guardians. The night you burned everything I loved to the ground." She hit him again, driving him backward toward a wall of flames. "I was 7 months pregnant. I was hiding in a cabin 20 miles away, waiting for my husband to come home. But he never came, because you put a bullet in his brain." Viper's back was against the fire now. He could feel the heat scorching through his jacket. "So you're here for revenge. That's what this is about. This is about justice. This is about ending something that should have ended 45 years ago. Then do it." Viper spread his arms. "Kill me. Prove that you're no different than I am." Eleanor raised her fist and hesitated. Viper smiled through bloody teeth. "You can't do it. You're too soft, too weak, just like your husband was." "My husband wasn't weak. Your husband begged for his life. Right before I pulled the trigger, he begged me to spare him. For you. For his unborn child. He cried like a baby." Something in Eleanor cracked. "You're lying." "Am I? I was there. I watched the light leave his eyes. I watched him die knowing he'd failed everyone he loved." Eleanor's fist dropped. Viper's smile widened. "See, weak. Just like..." Eleanor's hand shot forward, grabbing him by the collar and yanking him toward her. "My husband didn't beg," she said quietly. "I know, because the man who was there that night, Dale Forrest, told me the truth before Viper's predecessor killed him. Robert didn't beg. He fought. He took 3 of your men with him before he went down. And his last words weren't pleas for mercy." She pulled Viper closer until their faces were inches apart. His last words were, "Eleanor will finish this. And here I am." She released him. Viper stumbled backward directly into the flames. His clothes caught fire instantly. He screamed a sound that would haunt Eleanor's dreams for the rest of her life. He thrashed and rolled, trying to extinguish himself, but the fire was too hungry too fast. Eleanor turned and walked away. Behind her, Marcus Viper Hendricks, the man who had murdered her husband, terrorized countless communities, and built an empire of violence and fear, died screaming in the flames of the building he'd tried to burn down 45 years ago. Justice, Eleanor thought, has a long memory. She almost didn't make it out. The smoke was too thick now, the fire too widespread. Every breath was agony. Every step was a battle. She couldn't see the exits. Couldn't see anything but flames and smoke and darkness. This is it, she thought. After everything, this is how I die. Then she heard Lily's voice. "Grandma, Grandma, follow my voice." Impossible. Garrett had taken her outside. She was safe. Grandma, please, this way. Eleanor turned toward the sound, stumbling through the smoke. Her lungs were burning. Her legs were giving out. Keep talking, baby, she gasped. Keep talking. You're almost there. Just a little further. Please, Grandma, please don't leave me. Eleanor pushed forward. 1 step, 2, 3. And then hands were grabbing her, pulling her through a doorway out into the cool night air. She collapsed on the ground, coughing violently, gasping for breath. Someone was putting an oxygen mask on her face. Someone else was calling for a medic. Grandma. Lily threw herself into Eleanor's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. You came out. You came out. I heard you calling, Eleanor whispered, holding her granddaughter tight. I followed your voice. I was so scared. I thought you were going to die in there. I almost did. Eleanor pulled back enough to look into Lily's face. But I promised you I wouldn't run anymore, and I don't break my promises. Garrett knelt beside them, relief written all over his face. The FBI is here. The serpents are surrendering. It's over, Mrs. Carter. It's really over. Eleanor looked back at the burning warehouse. Flames were shooting through the roof, now consuming everything, including the man who had haunted her nightmares for 45 years. Yes, she said quietly. It's over. Son. The next few hours were chaos. FBI agents swarmed the scene, taking statements and making arrests. The surviving serpents, those who hadn't fled or died in the fire, were rounded up and loaded into transport vehicles. Patricia Holmes, freed from her restraints and buzzing with adrenaline, took charge of coordinating with the federal response team. The evidence Eleanor provided is solid, she told Garrett and the assembled Thunder Guardians. Financial records, witness testimonies, documentation of crimes going back decades. Combined with tonight's events, which we have on video, the Black Serpents are finished. All of them, Diesel asked. The entire organization. We're talking dozens of indictments across 3 states. Corrupt cops, politicians, judges, everyone they had on payroll is going down. What about Razor? Tommy asked. Patricia's expression hardened. Derek Williams has agreed to testify in exchange for witness protection. He'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, but he won't do prison time. That's bull, Diesel growled. That's the deal we had to make. Patricia shrugged. Without his testimony, we wouldn't have half the evidence we need for the higher-level prosecutions. Sometimes you have to let a small fish go to catch the sharks. He betrayed us. He got our people captured. He almost got Lily killed. I know, and I'm sorry. But the alternative was letting the serpents continue to operate for another decade while we built a case the traditional way. Patricia looked at Garrett. Your club stopped a criminal empire tonight. That's worth something. Garrett said nothing. His jaw was tight with anger he was struggling to control. He'll pay eventually, Eleanor said quietly. Men like Razor always do. Maybe not through the justice system, but karma has a way of catching up. You believe in karma? Diesel asked skeptically. I believe that people who betray others spend their whole lives afraid of being betrayed themselves. That's a special kind of prison, even if it doesn't have bars. Bull stepped forward, still rubbing his wrists where the zip ties had cut into his skin. Mrs. Carter, I owe you an apology. For what? For doubting you. When Stone told us who you were, what you'd done, I thought it was crazy. An old grandmother who founded our club, who fought the serpents before most of us were born. He shook his head. I should have had more faith. You had faith when it mattered. Eleanor smiled at him. You were captured, threatened, facing death, and you didn't give up any information. That's the Guardian Code. I just kept thinking about what you'd written. Strength protects. I figured if I could protect the club by keeping my mouth shut, that's what I needed to do. And you did. Eleanor reached out and clasped his hand. Robert would have been proud to ride with you. Bull's eyes glistened. Thank you, ma'am. That means more than you know. Dawn was breaking by the time the FBI finished processing the scene. Eleanor sat on the tailgate of a pickup truck, Lily asleep in her lap. The little girl had finally crashed after the adrenaline wore off, exhaustion claiming her completely. Garrett approached with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Eleanor and sat beside her. Hell of a night. Hell of a 45 years. Eleanor took a sip. But it's done now. Is it? The serpents might be finished, but there's still cleanup. Trials, testimony, media attention. This is going to follow you for a long time. Let it. Eleanor looked down at Lily's peaceful face. I'm done hiding. Whatever comes next, we face it together. As a family. Garrett was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Carter, I need to ask you something. Ask. When you went back into that fire when you faced Viper alone, did you plan on coming out? Eleanor didn't answer immediately. She stared at the smoking ruins of the warehouse where firefighters were still working to contain the blaze. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me was ready to die in there. Part of me thought maybe that was the only way it could end both of us together in the flames. What changed your mind, Lily? Eleanor stroked her granddaughter's hair. I heard her voice calling for me. And I remembered that I had something to live for, something more important than revenge. She ran back toward the building, fought like a wildcat when we tried to hold her back. She was screaming your name so loud I thought my eardrums would burst. She's got the Carter stubbornness. She's got her grandmother's courage. Eleanor smiled. That she does. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun rise over Cedar Falls. What happens now? Garrett finally asked. With you, I mean. With the club. I've been thinking about that. Eleanor took another sip of coffee. 45 years ago, Robert and I built the Thunder Guardians to protect people, to stand between the darkness and those who couldn't fight it themselves. We had a code, a purpose, a mission. We still have that. Do you? Eleanor looked at him. Because from what I've seen, your club has become something special, something that might even be better than what Robert and I built. Better. We were warriors, fighters. We met violence with violence even when we tried not to. But you found a different way. You protect this community not through force but through service. You help people. You build connections. You make Cedar Falls safer just by being part of it. Garrett felt his face flush. We're not perfect. Nobody is. But you're on the right path, and I'd like to help you stay on it. Help us how? Eleanor set down her coffee cup and turned to face him fully. I'm not going to rejoin the club. I'm too old for that, and frankly, I've had enough violence for one lifetime. But I can advise, mentor, help you navigate whatever comes next. We'd be honored. There's something else. Eleanor reached into her jacket and pulled out the key she'd worn around her neck for 45 years. This key doesn't open anything anymore. The evidence is in FBI hands. The serpents are destroyed. There's nothing left to hide. She held it out to Garrett. But it represents something. A reminder of what we fought for. What Robert died for. What every guardian should be willing to sacrifice for. Garrett took the key carefully, like it was made of glass. I want you to have it, Eleanor continued. Keep it somewhere safe. Show it to new members when they prospect. Let it be a symbol of what the Thunder Guardians stand for. I don't know what to say. Say you'll honor what Robert and I built. Say you'll protect this community the way we tried to protect ours. Say you'll teach the next generation what it really means to be a guardian. Garrett closed his fist around the key. I promise. Eleanor nodded, satisfied. Good. Now help me get this little one to bed. She's had a longer night than any 7-year-old should ever have. Yes, sir. Garrett carried Lily to the clubhouse where they'd set up a makeshift bedroom in the back office. Eleanor tucked her granddaughter in, kissing her forehead gently. Grandma, Lily murmured, half asleep. Yes, baby. Did we win? We won. Is the bad man gone? Eleanor hesitated. Yes. The bad man is gone. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Good. Lily's eyes were already closing again. I was scared, Grandma, really scared. I know, sweetheart. I was scared too. But we did it anyway, just like you said. Just like I said. Eleanor smoothed Lily's hair back from her face. Being scared is okay, Lily. It's what you do when you're scared that matters. I stomped on his foot. You did, and I bit him really hard. I saw that. Grandma, Lily's voice was fading now. sleep pulling her under. Yes, baby. I want to be like you when I grow up, strong and brave and not scared of bad guys. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. You already are, sweetheart. You already are. Lily's breathing deepened as she drifted off. Eleanor sat beside her for a long moment watching her granddaughter sleep. Outside the door, Garrett waited quietly. He didn't interrupt, didn't speak, just stood guard like a true guardian should. When Eleanor finally emerged, her eyes were red but her spine was straight. Thank you, she said to Garrett, for everything. Thank you, Mrs. Carter, for reminding us what we're fighting for. Call me Eleanor, or Ellie if you prefer. Mrs. Carter makes me feel old. Garrett smiled. You just took down a criminal empire and survived a building fire. I don't think old is the right word. What word would you use? He thought about it. Legendary. Eleanor laughed a real laugh, full and warm and alive. Legendary. I like that. Later that morning, Patricia Holmes called an impromptu press conference outside the Cedar Falls Sheriff's Office. The media had descended on the small town like locusts drawn by reports of a massive FBI operation and a burning warehouse. Rumors were flying about biker gangs, organized crime, and a mysterious grandmother at the center of it all. Patricia handled it with professional calm. Last night, federal agents, working in coordination with local law enforcement, conducted a successful operation against the Black Serpent criminal organization. Multiple arrests were made, and we expect additional indictments in the coming weeks. Reporters shouted questions. Is it true that a 72-year-old woman was involved in taking down the Serpents? What can you tell us about the Thunder Guardians Motorcycle Club? Are there any casualties? Patricia held up her hand for quiet. I can confirm that civilians were involved in the operation, including members of a local motorcycle club who assisted law enforcement. As for casualties, one individual believed to be the leader of the Black Serpent organization died in a fire at an abandoned warehouse. His identity is being withheld pending notification of next of kin. What about the grandmother? Is she available for comment? Patricia glanced toward the clubhouse where Eleanor and Lily were resting. The individual you're referring to has asked for privacy at this time. She spent the past 45 years protecting her family from this criminal organization. I think she's earned a few days of peace. The reporters grumbled but accepted the answer. From the window of the clubhouse, Eleanor watched the press conference with mixed feelings. You know they won't stop, Garrett said, standing beside her. The media. They'll dig until they find the whole story. Let them dig. I'm done hiding. Eleanor turned away from the window, but right now I want to focus on something more important. What's that? Building something that lasts. She walked to the center of the clubhouse's main room where the Thunder Guardians code was displayed on the wall. The words she and Robert had written 45 years ago, preserved and honored by generations of writers who'd never known their origin. Strength protects. Violence corrupts. A guardian does not abandon the innocent. A guardian does not flee from darkness. A guardian stands between evil and those it would destroy, no matter the cost. This code saved my life, Eleanor said softly. Every time I wanted to give up, these words kept me going. But I think it's time to add something. Add something. For Lily, for all the children who come after her. A reminder that courage isn't about being fearless. She picked up a marker from the table and approached the wall. In careful letters, she wrote below the original code, "Courage is being afraid and protecting people anyway. Real power isn't making others scared of you, it's making others feel safe around you." She stepped back to examine her work. What do you think? Garrett read the new lines, his throat tight with emotion. I think your husband would be proud. I hope so. Eleanor capped the marker. He always said the code wasn't finished, that it would grow and change as the club grew and changed. I think he'd like knowing that his great-granddaughter helped write part of it. She didn't write that. Didn't she? Eleanor smiled. She showed me what those words mean. Last night, when she bit Viper's hand and gave me the chance to fight back, that was courage. That was real power. She's 7 years old and she already understands something that took me 45 years to learn. What's that? That running away doesn't solve anything. That the only way to beat the darkness is to stand in front of it and refuse to move. Eleanor's eyes found the window again, looking out at the small town that had become her home. Cedar Falls is safe now. The serpents are gone, but there will always be new threats, new darkness, new reasons to be afraid. And the Thunder Guardians will be here to face them. Yes, Eleanor turned to face Garrett one final time. They will. And so will I. She extended her hand. Garrett took it, feeling the strength in those 72-year-old fingers, the same strength that had built an empire of protection and brought down an empire of violence. Welcome home, Iron Angel. Eleanor's smile was like the sunrise. It's good to be home. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Cedar Falls had changed. Not in any dramatic way, the same shops lined Main Street, the same families walked their dogs in the evening, the same church bells rang on Sunday mornings. But there was something different in the air, a lightness, a sense of safety that had settled over the town like a warm blanket. Eleanor Carter sat on the porch of her blue house on Willow Lane, watching Lily ride her bicycle up and down the sidewalk. The white picket fence had been repaired. The roses were blooming again. The front door, the one she'd smashed a man through 6 months ago, had been replaced with something stronger. Grandma, watch this. Lily lifted both hands off the handlebars, balancing perfectly as she coasted past the house. I see you, baby. Be careful. I'm being careful. Lily grabbed the handlebars again and executed a wobbly but successful turn at the end of the block. Did you see no hands? I saw you're getting so good. Eleanor smiled, but there was a tightness in her chest that wouldn't quite go away. Even now, even after everything, she found herself scanning the street for threats, checking the shadows, listening for sounds that didn't belong. Some habits she supposed took more than 6 months to break. Her phone buzzed. A text from Garrett. Meeting at 7. Can you make it? She typed back quickly. I'll be there. Tonight was special. Tonight, the Thunder Guardians were doing something they'd never done before. Tonight, they were unveiling the Eleanor Carter Community Center. The building had been a project of love. After the Serpent assets were seized by the FBI, a federal judge had ruled that a portion of the proceeds should go to communities harmed by their criminal activities. Patricia Holmes had argued successfully that the Thunder Guardians, as a community protection organization, deserved a significant share. The check had been enough to transform the abandoned warehouse on Miller Road into something beautiful. Eleanor stood outside the building now, Lily's hand in hers, staring at the sign above the entrance. Eleanor Carter, Community Center. Strength protects. That's your name, Grandma? Lily pointed excitedly. That's you. I know, sweetheart. Are you famous now? Eleanor laughed. I don't know about famous, maybe a little notorious. What's notorious mean? It means people know who you are, but not always for the reasons you'd choose. Lily considered this seriously. I think you're famous for good reasons. You might be biased. What's biased mean? Before Eleanor could answer, the front doors burst open and Garrett appeared, a huge grin on his face. You're here. Finally, everyone's waiting. I'm 5 minutes early. Early is the new late when you're the guest of honor. Garrett scooped Lily up onto his shoulders. Come on, little one. Let's show your grandma what we've built. Lily squealed with delight as Garrett carried her inside Eleanor, following close behind. The community center was everything they'd dreamed of. A large central hall for gatherings and events, classrooms for after-school programs, a gymnasium where kids could play basketball and learn self-defense, a kitchen where volunteers prepared meals for elderly residents who couldn't cook for themselves. And on one wall, in a place of honor, hung 2 things, Eleanor's original road captain patch from 1978 and Lily's hand-drawn picture of angel wings, with a grandmother and granddaughter added to the design. What do you think? Garrett asked, setting Lily down. Eleanor couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight. Grandma's crying, Lily announced, but I think they're happy tears. They are, baby. Eleanor wiped her eyes. They definitely are. The dedication ceremony drew the entire town. Families filled the main hall, children running between adult legs, laughter echoing off the new walls. Local officials gave speeches about community resilience and the power of ordinary people to make extraordinary change. But the moment everyone was waiting for came when Eleanor took the stage. She'd resisted at first. Public speaking wasn't her strength. She'd spent 45 years avoiding attention, not seeking it. But Garrett had insisted, and Lily had given her the puppy dog eyes, and eventually she'd caved. Now, standing before hundreds of people, she wondered what she could possibly say. "I'm not good at speeches," she began. "Never have been. My husband Robert was the talker. I was always more comfortable with action." Gentle laughter from the crowd. 45 years ago, Robert and I started something in this town. A group of ordinary people who believed they could protect their community from those who would harm it. We called ourselves the Thunder Guardians, and we wrote a code that we hoped would guide our actions. She looked at Garrett standing in the front row with Lily on his shoulders. "We made mistakes. We lost people we loved. Eventually, we lost everything. I spent 45 years running, hiding, afraid that the darkness we'd fought would find me again." Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. 6 months ago it did. The black serpents came for me. They threatened my granddaughter. They tried to destroy this town the way they'd destroyed others before it. She paused. But something was different this time. This time I wasn't alone. This time I had the Thunder Guardians, a new generation of protectors who'd carried on what Robert and I started, even though they'd never known us. They stood with me. They fought for me. They reminded me what I'd forgotten in all those years of running. Eleanor's eyes swept the crowd. That strength isn't about what you can do alone. It's about what you can do together. That protection isn't just about fighting. It's about building. Building communities. Building connections. Building a world where people feel safe enough to live without fear. She gestured to the building around them. "This community center isn't named after me because I'm special. It's named after me as a reminder that ordinary people can make extraordinary differences, that one person's courage can inspire a generation, that the darkness, no matter how powerful it seems, can never extinguish the light as long as we refuse to let it." Eleanor straightened her spine, the Iron Angel emerging one final time. Robert used to say that the Thunder Guardians weren't just a motorcycle club. They were a promise. A promise that there would always be someone standing between the innocent and those who would harm them. A promise that courage would never die as long as good people were willing to carry it forward. She looked at Lily, perched on Garrett's shoulders, eyes shining with pride. "I'm 72 years old. I've lived through more than most people could imagine. And if there's one thing I know for certain, it's this: the next generation is ready. They're stronger than we were, braver than we were, more compassionate than we were." Eleanor smiled. The future is in good hands. The applause lasted 5 minutes. When it finally died down, people swarmed Eleanor with handshakes and hugs and tearful thanks. She accepted it all gracefully, though part of her was desperate to escape to somewhere quiet. Eventually, Garrett rescued her. "Come on," he said, steering her toward a side door. "There's something else I need to show you." He led her outside to the back of the building where the original foundation of the 1978 clubhouse had been preserved and incorporated into the new structure. A small garden had been planted there, and in its center stood a bronze plaque. Robert Carter, 1952 to 1982, founder of the Thunder Guardians. He stood between the darkness and the light never forgot. Eleanor's hand went to her mouth. "We didn't tell you because we wanted it to be a surprise," Garrett said quietly. "Patricia helped us locate his remains. He was buried in an unmarked grave outside Miller's Creek, the serpent's idea of a final insult." Eleanor's legs gave out. She would have fallen if Garrett hadn't caught her. "We had him moved here." Garrett continued, helping her to a nearby bench. "This is his final resting place now, right beneath the building that carries on his legacy." For a long moment, Eleanor couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at her husband's name carved in bronze. 45 years. 45 years she'd been running, hiding, surviving. And all that time, Robert had been lying in an unmarked grave, forgotten by everyone except the woman who loved him. Now he was home. "Thank you." Her voice was barely a whisper. I can't. You don't have to say anything. Garrett sat beside her. This was the least we could do. You gave us back our history, our purpose, our identity. The least we could do was give you closure. Closure. Eleanor touched the plaque gently. I'm not sure that word means what I thought it meant. What does it mean? It means finally being able to let go of the past, not forgetting it, never forgetting it, but not being chained to it anymore. She looked at Garrett. It means being free to build a future. Lily appeared around the corner, running toward them with her usual boundless energy. Grandma, Mr. Stone. They're serving cake, and I saved you both the biggest pieces. Eleanor laughed, despite the tears still wet on her cheeks. Did you now? The biggest pieces with extra frosting? Lily grabbed their hands. Come on, before someone else takes them. Eleanor allowed herself to be pulled to her feet. She took one last look at Robert's plaque, a smile forming through her tears. Rest easy, my love, she whispered. We finished it, just like you knew we would. Then she let her granddaughter lead her back into the light. The celebration continued until well past midnight. Children ran themselves to exhaustion and fell asleep in their parents' arms. Adults shared stories and memories and promises for the future. The Thunder Guardians in full colors served as unofficial security, though there was nothing to secure against. This was the safest Cedar Falls had ever been. Around 11 o'clock, Lily tugged on Garrett's sleeve. Mr. Stone, can I ask you something? He crouched down to her level. What's up, little one? When I'm grown up, can I be a Thunder Guardian like you and Grandma? Garrett smiled. You want to join the club? I want to help people, like you helped us, like Grandma helped people before I was born. That's a big commitment. You'd have to work hard, study hard, stay out of trouble. I can do all that. Lily's jaw set in that stubborn way she'd inherited from Eleanor. I'm not scared of hard work. I know you're not. Garrett reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. But becoming a guardian isn't something you just decide. It's something you earn, over years, through your actions. He opened his hand to reveal a small patch, a miniature version of the Thunder Guardian's angel wings. This is a prospect patch. Not for the club, you're way too young for that. But for the future. When you turn 18, if you still want this, you bring this patch to whoever's president, then, and you tell them Lily Carter is ready to prospect. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Really? But there's a condition. What? You have to promise me you'll do everything your grandma tells you between now and then. School homework, vegetables, all of it. You have to grow up strong and smart and kind. Can you do that? I promise. Lily grabbed the patch and clutched it to her chest. I promise. I promise. I promise. She ran off to show Eleanor, leaving Garrett shaking his head with a grin. Diesel appeared beside him. You sure that was a good idea? That kid has more courage in her little finger than most adults have in their whole body. If she wants to be a guardian when she grows up, she's already earned the right to try. She's 7. So was Eleanor when she first learned to ride a motorcycle. Look how she turned out. Diesel couldn't argue with that. The party wound down around 1 in the morning. Eleanor sat in a chair near the door, Lily asleep in her lap, watching the last of the guests trickle out. Her body ached with exhaustion, but her heart was full in a way it hadn't been for decades. Garrett approached with 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this. You thought right. She took the cup gratefully. Hell of a night. Hell of a 6 months. That too. Eleanor sipped her coffee. What happens now, with the club, I mean? We keep doing what we've been doing, protecting the community, helping people, living the code. Garrett sat beside her. Patricia says the Serpent trials are going to take years. Dozens of indictments, hundreds of charges. They want you to testify at some of them. I expected that. Are you ready for it? Eleanor looked at Lily's sleeping face. I'm ready for anything, as long as I have her. You know we never properly thanked you. For what? For coming back, for trusting us, for giving us a chance to prove ourselves. Garrett met her eyes. When you walked into that fire to face Viper, you didn't know if we'd back you up. You didn't know if we were worthy of the legacy you'd built. You just believed. I didn't believe in you, Eleanor said honestly. Not at first. I was scared, desperate, willing to do anything to save Lily. What changed? You did. Eleanor smiled. When you told me to stay in the truck and I ignored you, you didn't yell. You didn't threaten. You just said yes, ma'am, and kept going. That's when I knew. Knew what? That you understood what the code really meant. That protecting people isn't about control, it's about service. It's not about being in charge. It's about being there when people need you. She reached out and touched his arm. You're a good leader, Garrett. Better than Robert was in some ways. He was always too proud, too stubborn, too convinced he knew best. You listen. You adapt. You put others first. I learned from his mistakes. You learned from his code. That's all any of us can do, learn from those who came before and try to be a little better. Garrett was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small wooden box. There's something I've been carrying for a while, waiting for the right moment to give it to you. He opened the box. Inside, on a bed of velvet, was a necklace. A simple silver chain with a pendant in the shape of angel wings, the Thunder Guardian symbol. We had it made special, Garrett said. All the guys chipped in. It's got everyone's initials engraved on the back. Everyone who was there that night. Everyone who fought for you and Lily. Eleanor's hands trembled as she lifted the necklace from the box. I don't know what to say. Say you'll wear it. Say you'll remember that you're not alone anymore. That whatever comes next, you've got a family watching your back. Eleanor fastened the necklace around her neck. The pendant rested against her heart, cool and solid and real. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Thank you, Iron Angel, for showing us what we could be. 3 weeks later, Eleanor received a letter. It came in a plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from somewhere in Montana. She almost threw it away, assuming it was junk mail. Then she saw the handwriting. She'd know that scrawl anywhere. It was burned into her memory from 45 years ago, when it had been written on notes left under her pillow, on anniversary cards, on the birth announcement of their daughter. It was Robert's handwriting. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, old and yellowed with age. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, then I didn't make it. I'm sorry. I tried so hard to come back to you. I tried so hard to be the man you deserved. But some fights are bigger than one person. Some darkness requires more than one light to push it back. I don't know who you are now, all these years later. I don't know what you've become or what you've survived, but I know who you were when I left you. You were the strongest, bravest, most stubborn woman I'd ever met. You were my partner, my equal, my Iron Angel. Whatever you've done since that night, I know it was right. I know you protected our child. I know you kept the code alive even if you had to hide while doing it. I'm not asking you to fight anymore. You've earned your peace. But if you ever get the chance, if you ever find yourself in a position to finish what we started, I hope you'll take it. Not for revenge, not for justice, for the future, for all the children like ours who deserve to grow up in a world without serpents, without fear, without darkness. I love you, Eleanor. I always have. I always will. Even death can't change that. Yours forever, Robert P.S. If you ever doubt yourself, remember what I used to tell you. Strength protects. Violence corrupts. And the Iron Angel never ever gives up. Eleanor read the letter 3 times before she could see through her tears. Someone, maybe Patricia, maybe one of the FBI agents who'd processed the serpent evidence, had found this among the seized materials. A final message from a dead man to his wife, held hostage by his killers for 45 years. But now it was free. Now she was free. Eleanor pressed the letter to her chest and wept. Not with grief, she'd done enough of that over the years, but with relief, with gratitude, with the overwhelming certainty that Robert had been with her all along, watching over her, guiding her, waiting for her to find her way back to the light. "I finished it, my love," she whispered. "I finished what we started." And somewhere in that space between worlds where love transcends death, she could have sworn she heard him answer, "I knew you would." 1 year after the night at the warehouse, the Thunder Guardians held a memorial ride. 30 motorcycles rolled through the streets of Cedar Falls, led by Garrett on his Harley. Behind him rode Diesel, Marcus, Tommy, Jake, Bull, and all the others who'd been there that night. And at the back of the convoy, on a restored 1978 Harley-Davidson that had been her first motorcycle half a century ago, rode Eleanor Carter. Lily sat in front of her, wearing a helmet decorated with hand-painted angel wings, hands gripping the handlebars as Eleanor kept them steady. "Ready, baby?" Eleanor asked. "Ready, Grandma?" Eleanor kicked the bike into gear and joined the parade. They rode through town, past the community center, past the Blue House on Willow Lane, past the church where Eleanor and Robert had been married 50 years ago. People lined the streets, waving and cheering, kids running alongside, trying to keep up. At the edge of town, they stopped at the memorial garden behind the community center. Robert's plaque gleamed in the sunlight. Garrett killed his engine and addressed the crowd. "1 year ago, we faced the darkest night this club has ever seen. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and betrayed by one of our own. By all rights, we should have lost." He looked at Eleanor. "But we didn't lose, because we had something the Serpents could never understand. We had each other, we had the code, and we had the Iron Angel." Cheers rose from the assembled bikers. "Today we honor those who came before us. Robert Carter, who gave his life for the dream of a better world. The 11 Thunder Guardians who died beside him in 1982. And all the ordinary people who over the past 45 years refused to let that dream die." Garrett raised his fist. "Strength protects. Strength protects." The thunder of voices echoed off the buildings. "Violence corrupts. Violence corrupts. And a guardian never gives up. A guardian never gives up." Eleanor stepped forward, Lily's hand in hers. 45 years ago, I was a scared young woman who didn't know if she could carry on alone. Today, I'm surrounded by family, not by blood, but by choice, by courage, by a shared commitment to something bigger than ourselves." She looked at Lily, whose eyes were shining with pride. "This little girl represents everything we fight for, everything we sacrifice for. She's the future. And as long as there are people willing to stand between her and the darkness, that future is bright." Eleanor raised her own fist. "Robert used to say that the code wasn't just words. It was a promise. A promise that we would never stop fighting, never stop protecting, never stop believing that good can triumph over evil." She looked at Robert's plaque one final time. "That promise lives on, in me, in Garrett, in every Thunder Guardian who wears these wings, and in Lily, who will carry it forward long after we're gone." The crowd erupted in cheers. Lily tugged on Eleanor's jacket. "Grandma, can I say something?" Eleanor lifted her onto a nearby bench so everyone could see. Lily cleared her throat, suddenly nervous with all the eyes on her. But then she squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, and spoke in a voice that carried across the garden. "My grandma taught me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway. And my great-grandfather, who I never got to meet, taught her the same thing. And someday, I'm going to teach it to my kids too." She held up the prospect patch Garrett had given her a year ago. "I'm going to be a Thunder Guardian when I grow up. Not because it's cool, even though it is, but because it means something. It means protecting people. It means standing up when everyone else sits down. It means being the light when everything else is dark." Lily looked at her grandmother. "Grandma, I love you, and I'm really proud of you. And I know Great-Grandpa Robert is proud of you too, wherever he is." Eleanor couldn't hold back the tears anymore. She gathered Lily into her arms and held her tight, the cheers of the crowd washing over them like a wave. And in that moment, standing in the garden where her husband finally rested in peace, surrounded by the family she'd found after decades of running, Eleanor Carter knew that everything had been worth it. The fear, the hiding, the 45 years of looking over her shoulder, all of it had led to this moment, this family, this future. The Iron Angel had finally come home. That evening, after the crowds had dispersed and the sun had set, Eleanor sat alone on Robert's bench. The garden was quiet now, peaceful. She could hear crickets singing in the grass and the distant hum of traffic on the main road. "Well, Robert," she said softly, "we did it. Took us 45 years, but we did it." She touched his plaque. "The club is stronger than ever. The serpents are gone. Lily is safe and happy and already talking about carrying on the legacy." Eleanor laughed. "She's got your stubbornness, you know, and my temper. God help whoever tries to cross her." She was quiet for a moment. "I miss you. Every day I miss you. But I know you're at peace now, and that means I can be too." Footsteps approached. Eleanor didn't turn. "Grandma?" Lily appeared beside her. "Mr. Stone says it's time to go home." "In a minute, baby. I'm just saying goodbye." Lily looked at the plaque. "To Great-Grandpa Robert. To the past." Eleanor stood and took Lily's hand. "But also, hello to the future." They walked together toward the parking lot where Garrett and the others were waiting. The motorcycles gleamed in the fading light. The angel wings on their vests caught the last rays of sunset. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, between one moment and the next, Eleanor could have sworn she heard the rumble of a familiar engine, the echo of a laugh she'd loved, the whisper of a promise finally kept. Strength protects. Violence corrupts. And love, true love, the kind that survives death and time, and 45 years of darkness, never dies. Eleanor climbed onto her motorcycle, Lily settling in front of her. Garrett pulled up beside them, grinning. "Ready to ride, Iron Angel." Eleanor looked at her granddaughter, at the family surrounding her, at the future stretching out before them. "I've been ready my whole life." She kicked the engine to life, and together, 3 generations of Thunder Guardians rode into the sunset. A grandmother who never stopped fighting a little girl who'd learned that courage was contagious, and a club that finally understood what they'd been created to be. Not warriors, not fighters, not avengers, guardians, protectors, family. The engines roared, the road stretched forward, and the Iron Angel, after 45 years in exile, finally flew free. Because in the end, that's what the code had always meant. Not that strength was about power, not that protection was about force, but that love, stubborn, defiant, unbreakable love, was the strongest force in the universe. And the Thunder Guardians would carry that love forward generation after generation for as long as there was darkness to fight and light to protect. That was their promise, that was their legacy, that was their truth.